The United States has never successfully changed a regime with air power alone. I'm afraid that Donald Trump has opened up a can of worms, and I want to see what the planning is as we enter the next phases.
And on the Michael Medved show, one of the premium bits of knowledge that is particularly relevant and important right now is knowledge about Iran. What's real about Iran, what's real about Iran's present, past, and future. Michael Rubin is someone extremely well qualified to talk about that. He is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, where he specializes in Iran, Turkey, and the broader Middle East. He is a former Pentagon official. Dr. Rubin has lived in post-revolution Iran, Yemen, and both pre and post war Iraq. He also spent time with the Taliban. He has written a great number of pieces with unique insight about Iran and its future and the dilemma right now. But before we get started, just a reminder to listeners to subscribe to our flourishing YouTube channel, Michael Medved Official. Uh, Michael, always a pleasure to talk to you, but particularly important right now. What is it that most ordinary Americans who are horrified by this war uh, get wrong about the situation right now in Iran?
First of all, I find it ironic that Donald Trump seems to have more critics in the United States than he does among Iranians inside Iran. The Iranians inside Iran are celebrating in the streets because Ali Khamenei and apparently his son as well have been killed. This is a man that recently slaughtered 40,000 of them in the streets, so there is no moral equivalence. That said, the United States has never successfully changed a regime with air power alone. The closest we've come is Serbia in 1999. And so I'm afraid that Donald Trump has opened up a can of worms, and I want to see what the planning is as we enter the next phases.
There hasn't been much talk about an end game in Iran. Do you think that's because they haven't decided or because they're keeping it secret?
Well, there's a few things going on. When we look at the number of Iranian officials who have been eliminated by drones, by missiles, what I'm curious about is the ones who haven't been eliminated. Are they simply on the B list for eradication, or are they purposely being bypassed because Donald Trump foresees a Venezuela like situation? I'm also worried about the arms caches that the Revolutionary Guard have because the Revolutionary Guard isn't centralized in Tehran. They have a unit in every province. So what is the planning in order to contain the various Revolutionary Guard arms depots in 32 different provinces? That said, we're hearing more and more chatter about the Israelis, if not the Americans as well, really throwing their weight behind Reza Pahlavi. And that might not be a bad situation, Michael. The issue is if he's going to be inserted back in Iran, how do you keep him alive?
Okay, Reza Pahlavi is the son of the late Shah of Iran. He's been living mostly in the United States, hasn't he? You've met him, as I
I've
understand.
known him for about 30 some odd years. He was a student at Williams College when the Islamic Revolution happened, and then he settled for a time in Potomac, Maryland. He's not as wealthy as many Iranians and Americans imagine. He basically um, left with very little, but simply managed what he did have and invested well. That said, he understands that his father was a dictator. And so he's for a long time bent over backwards in the opposite direction, where he wanted to be a coalition builder. In recent years, it seems, specifically the last 2 years, that he's been much more directed about perhaps taking power himself. Um, and it will be curious to see what happens if he returns. That said, I have no doubt that he will be welcomed by many Iranians, and I have a lot of experience both in Iran and among Iranians who weren't expecting to see him and did to back that up, Michael.
When you say you have experience with Iranians who actually support Reza Pahlavi, can you describe
Yeah,
some
sure.
of what that
In one
is
case, a
like?
friend of
Yeah.
mine, who comes from a more pro-Pahlavi family, was marrying a woman who comes from an anti-Pahlavi family, a family that back in the 1950s supported Mohammad Mossadegh. And a lot of her family was flying in from Iran itself. And for security reasons, no one told them that Reza Pahlavi was going to be the best man at the wedding. And when you had these Iranians who came from traditional socialist backgrounds, religious backgrounds, see the former crown prince in front of them, they got down on their knees, they bowed, they kissed his hands, they were crying. I mean, and when I lived in Iran, in Isfahan, for example, which is one of the major cities in Iran, I used to practice my Persian with some of the merchants there. And I remember a fruit vendor, a vegetable vendor, came down with his wheelbarrow and he was selling moldy bananas. And the person with whom I was talking turned around to me and said, "Oh, my Shah, where is my Shah?" When he was in power, the bananas were 3 times as big and and one half the price. And so part of that is, are Iranians really a fan of Reza Pahlavi? Perhaps. Or do many of them see him as symbolic of the grass being greener on the other side of the golden age of Iran before they suffered under all these ayatollahs?
Well, one thing that is striking about Pahlavi is he has a very warm, strong, positive relationship with Israel, does he not?
He absolutely he absolutely does, but then again, many Iranians do as well. Remember, when it comes to Israel and the conflict with the Arab states, every Arab along the border of Israel has someone in their family or knows someone that was killed in the war with Israel. And the same thing is true with Israelis. Very few Iranians know anyone that was killed in a war with Israel, except perhaps right now, and vice versa. And therefore, most Iranians simply don't care. I mean, when the Iranians, and I'm saying this as someone who used to live there, when they have their grievances are with Iraq because they had a war with Iraq that killed 1 million people. Israel is a former ally. And from the point of view of many Iranians, it should be a future ally. And one other anecdote, Michael. I mean, it's no secret that I'm Jewish. I don't hide it. And Iranians can be very cosmopolitan. When I was living there as a student doing doctoral research, I remember being at a graduate student seminar at University of Tehran, and one of the women there came up to me and said, "I'm sorry, Michael, for asking you this. I know it's not a polite question in the United States," but I said, "Don't worry, you can ask anything." They said, "Are you Jewish?" And I said, "Yes." And this is in the middle of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And she said, "I thought so. I went to kindergarten with someone who is Jewish. Can I introduce you to her? Because maybe she can then introduce you to the community." Iranians tend to be much more cosmopolitan, much more tolerant than many of the different peoples around them.
And if you had to guess right now, 5 weeks for the conclusion of the war or much, much more?
I think 5 weeks, this is what I worry about. The Iranians don't want to win the war. They only want to survive the way Hamas did and the way the Houthis did. That's their game plan right now, Michael.
And who knows which way it will go. The pieces by Michael Rubin are posted up at our website at the Michael Medved Show, michaelmedved.com. And one of the points he makes is that any comparison of the U.S. Iran conflict to the Russia Ukraine war is ignorant. And why is it ignorant? Because the Russians want to absolutely wipe out what Ukraine. And the United States and Israel do not expect or want to wipe out Iran. Michael Rubin, appreciate your celebration of this Jewish holiday, the holiday of Purim today. Chag
Thanks,
Sameach.
Sameh.